This is a pretty hard video to make for me. The last week's been pretty shit. The last 2 weeks, more specifically, the last 2 years, the last 5 years. I mean, you know, as much as I've had great experiences and things to do and you know, people to look up to, the world just keeps taking things, and it really bugs me that I have to make videos like these, but I feel this day is too important for it to pass and something not be said or done. If you guys don't know, an artist by the name of Jung Gi passed away today, and the news of it came out pretty recently, and everyone has been reeling from the shock. You know, it's like you think you're ready for some of your idols to pass in your lifetime, and it never gets easier, man. It only gets more difficult. It only gets harder to deal with loss as you get older. You start to resent the world for taking things away, and you know, I know it's the process of life and what we're supposed to really get on with and accept, but it just sucks. And people like Master Kim, who brought, you know, almost like Ian McCaig in a sense, you know, who is the just consummate professional and light in the room. Kim was the same, you know, from people I know that have met many times, and from the things that I have read and seen people post, he was just a lovely person who just loved art, loved the community. You know, he was only at THU, Trojan National Unicorn. He was only at that 2 or 3 weeks ago, and people saw him there. They shook his hand. They got pictures with him, and now he's gone. And that feels weird. It feels wrong. It feels like it shouldn't be happening, because God knows, at a time like this, with the rise of stuff like AI art and, you know, the news and people losing their mind over that, like it feels like there was some stability in traditional art and people were still looking to their heroes. And you know, it started to dawn on me how human he was. You know, back when he started to kind of slow down a couple of years back, I noticed there was an interview with Proco, which I'm using footage from. You'll probably see just now, but yeah, hope Proco doesn't mind.
Why do you think you're physically fatigued?
지벽을 넘게 됐죠. 당뇨가 와서 그런지 몰라도 이렇게 예전처럼 에너지가 좀 딸리긴 딸려요. 만약 어제같이 최근에 했던 SM, 슈퍼M 같은 작업들도 예전 같으면은 뭐 진짜 하루 반나절이면은 쳐낼 수 있는 작업인데 이제 이틀, 3일 해야 되고 하고 나서 정말 오랫동안 이 피로감이 오랫동안 가요.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. That's horrible.
But he talked about he recently had been diagnosed with diabetes. And that sucks in itself. That does a lot of things to your body, not any of them good. And I was slightly concerned. I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's shitty. Like, I wonder what's happening there. I didn't know if it was type 1 or type 2, because there is cases of people being diagnosed late in life with type 1, which is, you know, type 1's the horrible diabetes. People have to live with it. It's really brutal. You have to be really strict with, you know, getting enough sleep, enough rest, you know, eating properly, checking your blood sugar constantly. And if it's very new to him, you know, that's going to be something hard to live with, especially when you're traveling, because when you're traveling, it's hard to eat and sleep consistently because, you know, time zones, jet lag, you know, trying to find food that's appropriate for you, it's difficult. It really is. And I don't have the disease myself, but it is in my family, and I know from people who are in my family who have it. It is an absolute nightmare to deal with. Sometimes it can be really bad. If you have a bad day and you forget to eat or check your blood sugar and it spikes, you just crash, and your body does all kinds of weird things because the insulin resistance is so high. So or the insulin resistance is so low, sorry, and it can't produce enough of it to fight off your blood sugar. So that in itself is something I just wanted to bring up, because I think that may be related to why Master Kim had a heart attack suddenly at the airport. I think that may have played a part, because I know, again, from the people in my family, that having actually both type 1 and type 2 diabetes can pose a threat to developing cardiovascular disease, which is a heart disease, which puts you at a higher risk for heart attacks. Your blood pressure is high a lot of the time, and because of that, your heart sometimes just can't cope. Like if you're under stress, if you're traveling, if you're going from different event to a different event. I know he was about to board a plane at the time from Paris to New York, and I don't know how he was dealing with the travel and the sleep and trying to find stuff to eat, and especially in airports. Like, it's almost impossible to find a half decent meal in an airport. So I'm curious if that was, or that will be what comes out as the cause to why he had a sudden heart attack. As far as I know, he had the heart attack at the airport, and they tried to get him to surgery as quick as they could, but he unfortunately passed just before they could really work on him, and that's it's terrible. My thoughts and feelings and prayers go out to his family and his friends, his young kids, his wife. There's a whole slew of stuff that you say during these things, but really no words will ever compensate his family or his friends. Like, they have lost someone very dear to them, and also very dear to us as a community. He was always, when it came to the podcast, someone that I wanted to have on to speak to. I was in the process actually trying to track down a translator that could possibly help me, and I was going to reach out to him, and or his team, and see if we could try and schedule something with some of the artists on on the Kazone art channel, and even Miss Jisoo and artists like that. I thought it would be a great opportunity to get some of them on and do translation like Proco had done. And I had this idea on my head, and now unfortunately that won't come to fruition. I probably could still reach out again and talk to other people on his team, which I might still do, but the fact that Kim is gone and now can never do another interview is sad, because the guy had so much knowledge locked up in his head and so much experience. It really is such a tragic loss to not only his personal life but his professional life. Back in 2014, 2015, when I was really getting into the art world and concept design and stuff like that, like, Kim's name was something that came up again and again because of these videos that came out of him drawing at these crazy speeds, but also without reference, without underdrawings, and I thought it was crazy. But I do know the guy worked extensively hard, and it's always something that I think artists are bad at. I don't want to say, I don't want to speak to Kim's personal life because I don't know him. I met him once at THU. He was lovely to me. He was very kind. He drew in his sketchbook, which is just back there, which I still have. I'm glad I got that, before he's passed, and that I think it's going to be something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. But I do know artists are guilty sometimes of putting their career ahead of their health. Again, I don't want to speak to his personal life. I don't know his personal life. I don't understand or even want to try and understand or think about, what he was going through daily, if he was dealing well with his diabetes diagnosis or he was really struggling with it, because I know again from family members that when you get it later in life, it can be difficult to navigate because you're used to so much being one way, and when that comes along and changes your whole world, it's really difficult to understand and incorporate into your life. So yeah, like there's a lot going on, but yeah, I think COVID as well in general just put that into perspective for me, is that I really wasn't taking care of my health. I haven't been, you know, I'm the biggest I've ever been, and I hate that. I hate being like this, but I'm also dealing with an eating disorder. You know, I'm also dealing with emotional eating, things like that. So that's something that I'm dealing with as well. But yeah, God only knows what he was dealing with, what he was having to, you know, put up with daily, with blood sugar, with eating, with sleeping. You know, because obviously diabetes just kicks your ass. It takes so much energy out of you, you know, and for somebody who was so full of energy, it must be a really scary place to be. And yeah, that whole thing is just like, you know, I couldn't imagine trying to navigate that. I'm very lucky that, you know, having been to the doctor a few times recently when we checked my bloods, that I was actually negative for diabetes. So I mean, I'm extremely lucky. I'm in the very low percentage of people, my doctor said, who are, you know, overweight or severely overweight and aren't dealing with the side effect of being pre-diabetic or diabetic. So, you know, I'm thankful for that, at least, you know, because my health could be so much worse. But I have had to deal with things the last couple of years because of COVID, because of my attention being on the computer so much and not taking breaks and really not looking after myself. I have suffered effects of that. I don't really want to go into them too much, but like, I'm dealing with stuff on a daily basis now that as a result of not only catching COVID but also being glued to my computer 24/7. So yeah, I mean, health is something we really just do not take as a priority. I mean, more and more now you see it, that there are people who do make a conscious effort to be fit and healthy because they know their job requires so much sitting and being you know, standing still and not moving too much, so they have to compensate with that with exercise. But yeah, like, it's just crazy how much we put our health on the back burner for a job, and really it is, at the end of the day, it's a job. You know, we have to stop kidding ourselves that, you know, especially when students talk about it and they say, you're disillusioned, you seem quite pessimistic, and I'm like, it's not that I'm not pessimistic, it's just that I think so many people get into this industry for the wrong reasons. You know, some people it's fame, some people it's money, other people it's, you know, kind of scoring cool points because you're working for a cool company on a cool game. But working in video games isn't like the adventure park ride that people think it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is very rewarding in aspects, and sure, I have loved contributing to the games I've contributed towards, but it's not like a holiday camp. I think a lot of people have this image in their head that working in video games, I had this image in my head when I first watched making of documentaries, that, you know, it seemed like a fun place to work and people were really relaxed and had a good time and you got to sit up and work in games all night. But the reality of that kicking in is that, yeah, it is hard work, it's long hours, it's dedication, it's discipline, and that's something a lot of people just don't have. And then when they get to the industry and learn that it's this hard, it's difficult, sure, they get disillusioned, they get upset. I did. I'm like that, you know. I mean, I've never gave up, but I know my view of the industry has changed. It has matured. I've definitely grown up in a sense that I know now when I get a job in the industry, it'll just be a job. I'll go to my job, you know, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and, you know, clock in the morning, do my work, clock out at night, and try not to let it affect me too much. But like, yeah, it's a very hard industry to work in, and even when you get in, it's even harder. So it doesn't surprise me that people's health suffers because of it. You know, we just put up an interview with Craig Stitt. I forgot how to say Craig's surname, apologies, but Craig worked at Insomniac for many years. You know, came up with the pitch for Spyro the Dragon, and then worked at Insomniac on 3, I think possibly 4 Ratchet and Clank games, and was so burnt out at the end of that, he hasn't done any artwork for almost 10 years. Because he basically has PTSD now associated with making art. And you look at our industry, and it is harrowing to look at it and see the fact that there's so many people in our industry that are so young, but very few who are either mid to late 40s or, you know, over 50. A lot of industries I've worked in, even engineering, we had people who were, you know, a couple of years away from retirement. They'd worked in the engineering firm that I worked in. They'd worked there all their life, since they were maybe even, like my dad. My dad's a perfect instance of that. My dad started working for British Rail and Telecoms Signalling when he was like 16. And he's just retired at 62, 63. So he was there his whole life. And he had a relatively stressful job. It wasn't easy. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't impossible. It wasn't like so, you know, as competitive as the stuff we do. But he done it for, you know, he project managed for almost 30 years. And he's in relatively good health. You know, he's never really even looked after his health that much, but like, you know, he doesn't have any major injuries, and, you know, stress isn't something that's really, you know, he's probably been stressed in the past, but he's never, you know, his health hasn't suffered because of it. And, you know, in the games industry, where do you see that? How often do you see that? People who are, you know, getting into the industry super early and work the same job for 40 years. It's almost unheard of, because the industry is so competitive and, you know, so intense. You know, no wonder people leave and go on to do other things. So yeah, it's a whole thing basically of a push and pull with this industry, and seeing people post the stuff about Master Kim has been inspiring, but it's very understandable why people are so upset, because he was the gold standard. He was the person everybody wanted to be. And I think there's probably a small percentage of people looking at him now thinking, wow, you know, such a shame, such a talent is gone, you know, what to do now? And, you know, will his art live on? I mean, sure it will, but it feels like the guy's been robbed, you know, of a future. But yeah, it's tragic, it's hard, and I can't imagine what anybody else is going through. I can only explain on my side how I feel, and it's, you know, this is the most stable I've been all day. This morning, I was I was just a mess, you know. I just, you know, woke up early, I looked at my phone and was just shocked to see that people were posting that he had passed. I couldn't believe it initially. I thought it was some kind of weird joke, or I don't know what I thought it was, but I didn't think it was real. And yeah, it's still, even now, I feel a disbelief that he really is gone. I don't think it'll properly sink in for a long time, but I wanted to do something to talk about Master Kim and my feelings on him, and, you know, just to say something, because I've spent, you know, years of my life talking to artists, getting to know them, talking to different people from different roles and backgrounds and genders, ethnicities, and I feel like this place has become a beacon for young students and people, even professionals, who want to come and talk and listen to other professionals, you know, on this channel. And, you know, especially because I felt like I was closer than I ever was to getting someone like Master Kim on to talk on the podcast. It just feels gutting that he's gone now and I'll never get that chance. You know, I've been lucky to have some absolute legends on this podcast. You know, one of them, Scott Robertson, who I never thought, even going back when I first started the podcast, that I would get to talk to, and he's been on twice. You know, and, you know, if you look on the internet, Scott hasn't done a ton of interviews. You know, a handful, if even that. You know, most of the people I speak to, if they had never spoken to me, some people would have never known they existed, you know, in a sense that, you know, obviously the people that work with, they know it exists in their family, but on the greater scale, like globally, because my podcast is listened to all over the world. So, you know, the fact that I've gave these artists a platform to put not only their work up and show people, but just show their personality, listen to what type of person they are, because I think that's one of the things about social media and the way things are presented now in the 21st century is people want to get to know people, famous people, on a more intimate level. And you know, when we interviewed even Lorne Lanning, you know, lots of people were like, oh, I never knew Lorne was like that, I never understood he was into all these other things. And the same with Scott. You know, even when we done the last podcast with Scott, I was stunned that he was incorporating AI and VR into his workflow. Not that I didn't think he was capable of it, but I just didn't think that was a route he would go down, because he was the perspective and traditional drawing master. You know, I thought that was something that he would guard forever, but like he talked about, you know, using even Maya, Cinema 4D, AI, you know, ZBrush, any tool that he felt helped him, you know. And yeah, it's just been a great honor to get to speak to people like that. And that's why I felt I had to say something, just to say, like, to mark just the occasion and say, look, you know, this has happened, everybody's hurt, me included. And if people want to talk about it, you know, I'm here for it. You know, either down in the comments or on the Discord, you guys are more than welcome to speak up and talk about how you feel. And yeah, just I hope everyone's okay. I mean, if you aren't, that's fine. This is one of the days that you get to not be okay and be happy with that, because something horrible has happened. I don't want to rant too long. I understand people's time is precious, so I'll just say, you know, I hope whatever you guys are doing, you're staying safe, you're being creative, and I hope Master Kim is at peace now, wherever he is, and I hope you guys find peace as well later down the line. I hope you guys heal those wounds and pick up a pencil and an ink brush and do something to pay tribute to Master Kim. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you have a great evening. See you later.